All right, it is 6:30 p.m. on November 19th, so we'll call to order the City of Delaware Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Can you call roll?
Ms. Cunningham? Here. Mr. Dalton?
Here.
Mr. Hayward?
Here.
Ms. McWhinney? Mr. Rush? Ms. Schul? Here. Ms. Stogler? Here. Ms. Thompson? Vice Chairwoman Hibbinger?
Here.
Chairman Bricker?
Here. So we need a motion to excuse those who are absent this evening.
Yes, and I did hear from all three illnesses, child injured, and trying to travel back in time to make the meeting from Liberty, the city.
I don't know.
I motion.
Second?
All right, can you call roll?
Thank you. Ms. Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Ms. Schul?
Yes.
Ms. Stogler?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Hibbinger?
Yes.
Chairman Bricker?
Yes. All right. Next item is to approve the minutes from our last meeting on September 17th. Is there any discussion before we do so? All right. Seeing none, we just need someone to approve or a motion to approve those.
I make a motion to approve.
I second.
All right. You call roll?
Ms. Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Ms. Schul?
Yes.
Ms. Stogler?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Hibbinger?
Yes.
Chairman Bricker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is public comments. Seeing none, we shall move on. Next item, update of YMCA.
Good evening, Roger Hannafin from the Delaware YMCA, the new Associate Executive Director. I live at 240 West Hefner here in Delaware. How's everyone doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You guys should have the report and can answer any questions that you guys have on it.
My only question for you is, when you do special events outside of YMCA marketing, whether it's in your brochure, inside the YMCA, whatever it is, how else do you market those events to those non-members of the community?
So one thing we do have is we work with Lee with the city, and we actually, we've partnered so close with him that I actually have access to the city Facebook page. So any city events are put, out through the city Facebook page along with ours. Using the social media, oftentimes they'll put the Halloween event was in the email newsletter that the city puts out. So we work and make sure that they have the whole calendar for the year for that. And then, of course, there's the city recreation website that anyone can go to as well to look at that. We also utilize our people who are participating. We try to get them to market it as much as possible, so it's not just us.
Right.
And of course, if you were at the Halloween the Halloween event, for example, we'll put there's a big sign at Mingo Park. There's one at the Y. So we do things like that as well.
Right.
So.
I only ask because I have an exchange student in my house this year that volunteered for the collar run. And my wife is a runner, therefore de facto everyone in my family is a runner.
Right.
And she was taking her there, and she's like, I had no idea that they were doing a kids color run.
Right.
Because my daughter would have wanted to do it, but she already had other plans that day. And so
Gotcha.
my wife started talking to some of her running friends, and none of them had heard of it. I easily between them was probably another 12 to 15 kids that would have done it, but
Sure.
no one knew that it was going on. So I
Yeah.
was just curious how to tell them to make sure
Right.
that they're looking at this spot or
This
this
spot.
place or whatever it is.
The calendar for it's on the website. We do, like I said, we do work with Lee. That event was listed on both Facebook. Obviously, we want to get the information out to as many people as possible, and are open to any ideas for sure. We had in the past done a paper brochure that we would do, I believe, quarterly, and was distributed to places like the library and things like that. It was decided to discontinue that in the past, but that's something we might look at again. And
Sure.
that was the Color Run is a new event. Anytime we have a new event, there's so many things going on, which is a positive thing to kind of force your way into that, and we kind of rely on viral ness of things and people sharing what's going on. But
Sure.
yeah, it's out there, but I agree, it's hard to you walk down every store in downtown Delaware and there's 50 flyers of things that are happening. So we try to break through that and get people to see it through different places.
And it's hard to reach kids. I know the schools don't do it just because everybody would go to them if that was the best way to reach kids. So,
Right.
so I get that. One thing to keep or to think about maybe
Mhm.
is look for or think about, especially on Facebook, different groups.
Mhm.
Moms Run This Town, very popular
So,
running group.
well, that's something. So I love social media. I've actually started some of those groups. So like there's a family group specifically. I'm admin on a couple different groups, and so we will make the event and then share it through groups. So that's one way we do try to spread the reach. I'm not on the moms group for whatever reason, but
It's pretty cutthroat to even
yeah,
be on the group, so.
I'm thankful for that some days. But yeah, so we do try to get that information. That is another way we
Sure,
get that
just
out.
curious.
Yep, no, it's good. And we're definitely open to if there's a email list that you think is a good way to get that information out. We do also share big events with our community partners. So we'll share it with the Safe Coalition or the Health Strengthening Families Coalition, who will then share it out to their listserv. So multiple agencies are getting those because we want to make sure so that's another way we'll do that too, is through email, having the agencies also make sure that their participants are aware as much. I don't know exactly what happens when it goes out, but it is out there. So mhm.
Anybody else have anything?
The only thing I was gonna add,
Yeah.
Roger, the Daddy-Daughter Dance got changed from Friday to Saturday, right?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So, working with OWU, we the only day they had, we've typically been a Friday night. They only had a Saturday, so we moved it to a Saturday. Which, if you had asked me at the very beginning, if I were to design the program, I probably would have chosen a Saturday. Because it's going to be a little bit easier, especially for people who work during the week. We're able to move the time up half an hour because of that. So we do have quite a few young girls. So I think that's actually going to be a better fit. We are on all of our outgoing communication, we are highlighting that it is a day change. It's not a location change, but the day change and the time change. So that's on the flyer. That will be on the Facebook post, the email to all previous participants. And then once you sign up, you get the email that will remind you of the location and the attire and what to expect at the event. And we'll be bolding and highlighting. So if people are used to the Friday and the 6:30, that they see that. So thanks for.
Yeah, I know it's a popular event, and I just want to make
Yeah.
sure people are aware of this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And as you mentioned, you're still looking for volunteers, so
Yeah.
Anyone that's willing or able.
I do want to point out Cassie and for your group volunteering at the Halloween. You're like, what? She brought out the softball team from OWU. They ran the hot dog station at the Halloween event, and it was their second year doing it, so it was like butter. I mean, it was smooth, and we moved it inside. They were warm. They were happy. But that's something that this group can really help us with. These are city events, and we want to have you guys there. The more you guys are seeing what's going on, the more feedback we can get as to what's working and what. It's another set of eyes, and we need that. We also need hands. You can't, that Halloween event, we had the OWU softball team and then the YMCA Teen Leaders Club. And after the event, we talked about all of the things that the Teen Leaders Club did. And I said, just imagine if you weren't here, what would have the event been like? And it was kind of crazy to think about. You know, you can't do these things. The daddy-daughter dance will be another example. So we do, you know, and that is at OWU, so we'd love to see some more participation. It's tough because the students aren't there, but if you know of a group that's interested in volunteering, there's lots of really fun ways for groups to be involved in any of these programs. Great way to get back to the community and see what's going on. So
What's the date of the daddy-daughter dance?
it'll be January 11th, which is actually the same date as it was last year because we moved it a day. So, and that will be at the OWU Hamilton Williams building in the campus student life center from 6 to 8 p.m.
You might have some students back. And
Okay.
Definitely some athletes. So
Beautiful.
let me put some feelers out because classes start the 15th and most kids come back that Sunday.
Okay.
Let me look into that.
Okay. Great. Fantastic.
All right. Any other comments for the Y?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Rod.
Thanks, Rod.
6:08. All right, we'll move on to number 5, update of Parks and Rec.
Where's that switch at?
Hmm?
Where's that switch at? There. Turn these to be some.
You want the TV in?
Yeah.
Mhm. Do you want the doohickey?
Yeah. Coming up. Okay. Oops. Where'd it go? Is that mine? Oh, loud. Okay, sorry. So, just had a couple items to go over real quick. First on there actually is the Healthy Kids running series, which is going to be starting. I think that there's a resident who wants to move forward with that, and it'll start next spring. So I brought it up to you last time. It's a good series. It won't interfere with pool season. It's before Memorial Day and after Labor Day. It's been pretty popular. Hilliard has one, and so we'll see how it goes. Seems like a really good event. So I wanted to talk real quick about our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which is going to be coming up. In the initial phase is the needs assessment. We're going to have a kickoff meeting on the 9th and 10th. I really wanted to get the park board involved in this, so we'll be setting up some focus groups, a lot of residents those 2 days to try to reach as many people in the city as possible. So there's be more to come to that. Once I get that agenda pulled together, I'll see what interest and what availability this park board has to be involved in that. But I definitely want to get as many people involved as possible. I wanted to ask a park board about a park renaming. Right now, and it's almost not even really a renaming. This is Wetland Park out there behind Coles. Wetland Park was not really a name assigned to it. It was more of a, well, there's wetlands put in out there, so we're going to call it Wetland Park, and you know that spaghetti through the wall and it stuck. So I wanted to kind of go to you and kind of get some recommendations on what this could be named. And one of Tom Wilburn in our audience had brought up also, we talked about the Mill Run is a tributary that drains this area of the city. And it runs, Mill Run basically comes from, oops, went the wrong way.
You can use that.
I can?
Go back.
Oh.
Do you want the circle?
No, that's right. It's a tributary that basically, this is Mill Run. And it runs out and comes underneath and through here. And we've talked in the past, we have a Mill Run Greenway that we're looking at, which, you know, it really ties a natural feature to this area and to this park. I think it makes a lot of sense just for this area. And because of the wetlands that are involved, and as you can see, there's a lot of water or not wet areas in this park. So get your responses, your thoughts, any feedback from the board on renaming this, because one of the reasons we wanted to look at doing this is we're looking at getting a kiosk put up out here, and part of that kiosk will have a name of that park on there. And we don't have a sign yet, but I think that'll be coming soon. I guess I would like to recommend the Mill Run Park and see if there's any feedback from the board on that.
I don't have any issues with the name. I'll be honest, the first thing that comes to my mind, and only because I lived there a long time ago, is it's a development in Hilliard.
That
It's-
was my first
It's
thought.
Mill Run, so it's where the Dave and Buster's and At Home store and everything over there. There's a small little park over there.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So that's, I mean, that was the first thing that came to my mind is
Mhm.
Hilliard, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's we can't have the same.
Yeah, and that tributary is named Mill Run, so it's a name that's on the USGS maps. It's known and documented anyway. If there's no objections, we'll try to move forward with that name and kind of officially name this park, because it's kind of really just been because there's wetlands in there, it was called Wetland Park, and never was really okay with that going forward. But this seems to be more of a fit for this park. Okay.
Do you need anything from us? Do we need to do any motions or anything for that?
I think it probably wouldn't hurt to do a motion, since there's never really been anything on that.
All right.
Gary,
So-
can I
sorry, go
interrupt
ahead.
for just a second? I know
Mhm.
that you were wanting to make sure it was named after a feature of some kind. Does this satisfy? Do I remember that correctly from the
Yeah.
last conversation?
Yeah, Ted and I talked.
Gotcha.
I was good with that. We had previously talked. I know you had mentioned at one time, I can't remember the gentleman's name from, founder
Jed
of the
Bird.
city, yeah, that a
Yeah.
possibility about with that name.
What I'd like to do there is, I think we can designate, especially with the profession using the Jed Bird Sanctuary in the park itself, and kind of maybe, I think there's an opportunity for a interpretive sign to kind of really talk about Jed Bird and everything that he did.
Is he an OWA professor?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, he was a ornithologist,
Ornithologist.
and really good one, and had a lot of he had a lot of knowledge with him. Yeah, he was, I mean, well known around. So I think that there's definitely an opportunity in here to kind of, I won't say memorial, but kind of a celebration of what he did.
All right. So any other discussion?
Sorry.
No, you're fine. So we just need a motion to approve or recommend a name change from Wetland Park to Mill Run Park.
Yeah, I would even call it a naming. I don't think Wetland Park was ever officially
Okay.
named it. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to call it Mill Run Park.
All right.
I have a second.
All right. Lane, take roll.
Ms. Cunningham?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Hayward?
Yes.
Ms. Shul?
Yes.
Ms. Stogler?
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Hibinger?
Yes.
Chairman Bricker?
Yes.
Elaine's passing down so we have another name, but we'll get to that. Back in September, we had a public meeting out at, this is the area, it's about 30 acres near the YMCA off Houck Road in Boulder Drive. We had a meeting with the public, and we invited the public to come and give us some feedback on what they wanted to see in this new park. I'm showing you that, the same thing, it's up on the screen, but it's sometimes easier to see when you have it on a piece of paper. So, based off that feedback, we came back and we have come up with this draft plan, this concept plan of what we wanted to see in that park. So some of the things we learned in there, we got an overwhelming response from the public. They wanted to see trails. Kind of a variety of trails, some different uses of trails, but they wanted to see trails, walking paths. So we incorporated some loop trails in this design. They are a little awkward, but one of the reasons they are this way is because this trail along the Boulder Drive that's going in now is being built. It's built already by a developer, so that one's in already. So we wanted to connect that and make it more part of the park. The other thing that people wanted to see overwhelmingly was more of a preservation of the park, or in some areas a restoration, particularly in the agricultural field. It's basically divided into woodland that's natural, and then this was an agriculture field. So some of the things we wanted to do in this was kind of create a prairie on the inside, but I introduced this woodland edge just because when you have those rigid agricultural fields, it just doesn't look natural. And so we tried to introduce some, kind of undulating woodland area around the edge. That will require some restoration, and it'll take some time, but and then some prairie plantings on the inside. And at the far west corner, we looked at some type of a pond or a wetland area, and this would just add some diversity to the site and kind of allow us to kind of stay with that theme of some of the more natural areas that people could experience in the park. That was something we heard a lot of. The yellow line in the center is an obstacle course. There's one at Glacier is a good example. I think we talked about it last time, and people definitely wanted to see that more of that and the natural play area in the woods. The natural play areas are pretty simple. I think it's a good use in that woods. But as you can see, our overall goal is to have a minimal impact to the site. And also restore the site, particularly that agricultural field, but kind of make it. And it is more of a community park. There's no parking lot in there, so it's a active transportation destination point. So people walk to the park. I think it's close enough to Veterans Park that it could be considered a satellite park to that a little bit, so people could park over there and walk over here. But for the most part, it serves the community in that immediate neighborhood. So it is basically based off feedback, and we're kind of trying to finalize our cost estimates, but wanted to present it to this park board and see if they had any feedback. And also, we've had a lot of names with this one. Heatherton Park, Willowbrook Park, those are neighborhoods in that area. So if you have any suggestions on that name too, we'd love to hear that.
What's the proposed timeline for this?
Probably starting some of the construction, particularly the restoration. Would love to start that next year in the spring, just because restoring that tree line and some of those trees in there is going to take some time. But there's a lot of volunteer efforts that we can get some tree plantings and start getting in there. And the prairie takes a little bit of time too.
And once you start, how long do you think something like that takes?
Funding is going to probably play a big factor in that. We do have some funding allocated for this park through impact fees. So, I think that definitely would go towards some of the restoration and possibly, kind of creating maybe one of the loop trails to get, I think the natural play areas, we can get access to those. That would, they're ready to go right now. And open it up to the neighborhood. I think long term, maybe a restroom, and that's just conceptual at this time, and possibly a basketball court, but that's more long term. I think ideally I'd like to see more of the wetland or pond area go in and try to get some of that restoration done around there.
So I have a couple of things. One, the proposed obstacle course, so that is more of a Glacier Ridge type obstacle, not like a Mingo like station.
Correct.
Type
Yes.
thing. Okay.
Yeah, there's some examples at the bottom there, but yeah, it's more that the Glacier is a really good example of what we're proposing.
Very popular.
Yeah, we got a lot of good response from that in the public meeting.
The other thought, because I know we've talked about it before in the past, with all of the abundance of land that it looks like is unused, which is good. I know we've talked about a Frisbee golf course in the past. That might be an option to take a look at for that, because it really does minimal impact to any of the existing nature. Yes, some stuff would have to be cleaned up, put in a small cement pad here and there, but if you're going to leave that much untouched, you might be worth a chat with a local Frisbee golf club to see if it's of interest, to see if there's anything. I don't know if there's any grants by, I think it's called the PDGA, which is the Professional Disc Golf Association. If they would be willing to do that, or if that's something that even interests the city. But again, I know we've had discussions about it before in the past, and it looks like this might be an easy fit to kind of pop in, even if it's only 9 holes, to put some stuff in.
Yep, it's definitely a possibility, and Glacier is another example. They have the Frisbee golf out there, and we have had people at the park board meeting, and we did propose a Frisbee golf out at Mill Run Park. So yeah, this is something we could definitely consider if there's some interest in that.
Just one of the things I would piggyback on that is we gotta keep in mind that's a community park without parking,
Right.
and something like that would definitely draw a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention, I went to this public meeting, first of all, I was amazed at the turnout.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it would be, we were there for 2 hours,
Mhm.
and it was full of people the whole time. And there was a lot of people, and a lot of people voted, and just no one mentioned anything like that for that particular
Sure.
area.
Mm-hmm.
It just plays real well into the fact that it's free, it's a park thing to do. So
Oh,
it's a
I know,
good place
I
to
love
take.
playing it, but
So,
without
but
parking, I think
agree.
would be an
Parking-
issue.
Parking makes it a little challenge, but I don't think it would be as much of an issue unless a tournament's held there. Then obviously that would become a major issue. But anything you add to the park is going to increase the draw.
That's true.
You know, Gary's point that we did have a really good turnout. I think part of it was the setting. We had it in the park. It was really nice, and I think we'll try to, copy that in the future for future meetings also. Any feedbacks on the names out here? Any?
Is there anybody, I don't know, I guess my thought on that is you're never gonna win with a name after a housing development, whether it's Willowbrook, whether it's
I know.
whatever it is, because then you make one community, or one area happy and one like, I should've been called us.
I know.
Is there a reason behind either of those? I mean, I understand the neighborhoods, but is there a reason behind the neighborhood being named that would make it relevant? Sorry to.
No, that's pretty much up to the developer. I don't know. I'd have to see if they researched anything on them, but I doubt it.
No, you have so many developments over there. We're in Adderley Park and we touch it too, so there's just so many different developments over there.
Is there a prominent Delaware
feature?
citizen or like something?
One of the
You know.
was Bixby, one of the founders. We don't have a Bixby Park or anything.
Well, that was my first thought was Hayes. I mean, I don't know if
Yeah.
there is a Hayes Park, but
Yeah, I guess that's true. There isn't a Hayes Park.
but
Should probably be more prominent if it is we are gonna name one Hayes.
Yeah, more of a community park.
right. But it just makes sense, you know, if there's a way to honor somebody that's made big significant contributions rather than just name it after whatever development is close by.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense. Plus, it can get confusing, and that's kind of, in the future as some of these parks come up, we'll try to address that a little bit sooner, so that some of these names don't just kind of linger on.
Well, I think it's a big point too, like Carson Farms Park is in the middle of Carson Farms, but this touches so many things and one neighborhood might feel like it's theirs.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, it could even look at like Boulder Park. It's right off Boulder Drive.
Or Houck Road Park or something.
That would make more sense.
Well, if anything does come up on that, feel free to email me, please. Looking for suggestions and as we move forward with that, and anything else that if you see on the plan that you think of, please let me know. We're trying to finalize this, and we'll probably get it back out to the community and have a plan and start moving forward with it.
Looks good.
Another project I wanted to bring up was we've talked about this donor tree. As we move forward, we get a lot of requests for memorial trees that that people want to put out in the parks. Along with that goes a memorial plaque that over time usually fades, gets destroyed, or it kind of sometimes loses its significance out in the park. So what we were proposing, and I think we brought it to our Shade Tree Commission at one point, was we'd still have a memorial program and we'd still plant a tree in the park, but we'd give the location of that tree to the donor, but we would bring the actual plaque inside into a central area where people can, anyone can see it, and it's all centralized. So one of the areas we proposed for this was out at Mingo, and I don't know if you're familiar. As you walk in Mingo, the gym would be to your right. We have this wall of tiles, and we're not going to get rid of the tiles. What we propose is putting them up higher as they are at the main entrance at Mingo, just relocating them along the top. And the one reason we chose this spot is it's a very prominent spot, and I think it would suit a tree there, and it would give it the respect that you know, that we'd like to give it, and have it in a spot in a public building where we could, you know, make this program grow a little bit more. Because I think there's we do get a lot of requests, and I think this is a really good way to, you know, get more trees out into our parks, but also give people the recognition and the donor areas that they want. This tree is expandable. What's shown there is a small version of it, but with the area that we're proposing, it could be expanded and what lasts well into the future for us.
So this is donors not just for trees at Mingo, for trees all over
Yep.
the city?
The parks, yep, yes. And we would stop putting plaques out in the parks themselves. It would just, the idea is that we would give the donor a map and location of where the tree that they're purchasing is gonna go. And then also, you know, the plaque, they would have, you know, a certain number of letters they can put on that plaque, and it would have a permanent spot in the parks. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this and how you feel about moving forward with this. And again, these tiles, it's a pretty old program, but we do have tiles up on the high spot. And the one thing that does do is it doesn't allow them to get damaged as easily. We've got quite a few in here that are damaged and broken. So what we're talking about doing is relocating them up high along, like the others are, probably along the walls right to the right and left of that picture.
What are the significance of the tiles?
It was a program before I got here. I'm not positive.
Okay.
I don't have all the details on that. So, but we want to just relocate them and get them in a higher spot, but and also, you know, designate the space for the memorial tree.
Are you concerned about the dedicated tree getting damaged in the same way that the tiles
So
are?
yeah, there is concern about that, and a lot of the companies we've talked to, you can barely see it, but there's a plexiglass that goes over those leaves, and you know that plexiglass could get scratched, but at least they wouldn't get to the plaque itself. And those leaves are not hard to replace. If we do have to replace one, it's probably $4 or $5 to replace a leaf on there. So that's not. But yeah, the other thing is at this location, we should have eyes on it quite a bit. So yeah, that's always a possibility.
I think, isn't that where all the kids like congregate right before basketball games? So you've got basketballs flying everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, if they're easily replaced.
Yeah, they could be replaced. But the other thing is we could put the plexiglass is already over the leaves, so we would have that protection in there.
Now, how tall is this?
It like if it grows, it could fill in that whole space.
Oh wow.
And I think when I was at Preservation Parks, we did this tree, and it was very popular because it's just people like that the idea of a plaque going up and a name on there, and you know also the fact that there's a tree being planted in this honor, so it can get pretty popular. So it could fill up most of that space.
So any of the existing plaques would all be removed, is that correct?
Yeah, I think I don't know for sure if we can say that. We try to contact the families, and maybe we can replace some of those with leaves. But I don't know that we'll go out and start pulling those plaques, because that's going to be difficult to do. I don't know if we can have the contacts to everybody that's done that in the past. But going forward, we'd put them on leaves. I think down the road that'll be more beneficial and really make it more eternal.
It looks nice.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and I
like
should
it
mention
too.
also some of these acorns or rocks, they're for bigger donations that can be incorporated into it. If there is a desire for that, we can move forward with something like that too. But right now we're focused on the leaves.
And Mingo seems to be a good place for something centrally located.
Yeah, we really searched. It's one of the public buildings we have. We have City Hall, we have some other areas, but that one seems to be a real prime location for something like this.
I like that.
Okay. Oops. Oh, so last time we talked about we had these structures out at the Veterans Park splash pad, and I think we talked about removing these structures, which maybe I guess I wanted to go back and look at this and see, is that the only option? that we have. And so we asked around and we came up with, we found this product. I'm gonna pass these down. There's two of them. They're just different colors. They're the same thing. You can take a look at them. It's basically a kind of a soft surface. Now, I'm not talking about doing the whole playground with this, more like doing a fall zone around those structures. Something where the structures could stay there, but this material could be placed around the edges, and it would create that fall zone. It wouldn't create a trip hazard. There's a small transition plate that would go around that, and just kind of encircle that monument or that structure itself, and create. If someone does fall off, they're going to hit this soft surface, and you can feel it's pretty soft and it's slip resistant. It seems to have worked in a lot of different places, but I think it's a decent alternative to providing that that extra precaution, but also keeping the structures themselves.
Did we
So,
have
yeah.
injuries there?
Yes.
Yeah, we've had a few injuries there. You're not supposed to climb on these, but that doesn't keep kids from climbing on them.
Right.
So we'll continue to keep the no climbing on there, but this could be something else where we would, because removing them, it is a part of the theme of the park itself. It is something that, adds to it. So we just wanted to look at alternatives. This, price-wise, we're estimating, I haven't got a final quote yet, but we're estimating it might cost $3,000 to $3,500 for these pads around the structures themselves.
And we did some kind of a recommendation our last meeting, didn't we?
Yeah, to remove those.
Yeah, and I guess there's no problem with us just rescinding that or modifying it or.
Yeah, and I can look at this. I can get a quote from this company, come back to you and show you exactly what it would look like. But I just wanted to throw this other alternative out there and see what your thoughts are.
Do they have, and maybe they do in the literature or here that I just didn't notice, but are there statistics? Think of it like field turf at football stadiums on how much safer field turf is than grass or whatever. Do they have statistics on how much less impact is given to a kid falling on this material versus concrete?
I don't know if they have statistics. I can ask that question though. I have a good contact with this company, and he's very responsive, and he's contacted me about 5 times since I asked him about this. I keep telling him we're taking it to our parks board, and but I can ask him that.
I mean, I think it would just make a decision a little easier if we knew that it was X percent, better than concrete. If it reduced injuries by 80% or whatever it is, because nothing's going to fully eliminate injuries, but if it's a very good big step forward, I think it'd be easier to recommend.
The thing I kind of notice is by squeezing on it, it doesn't have a lot of give.
It's pretty hard.
Mhm.
If somebody lands
It's
on
harder
it, is
to
it going to
follow.
have any give at all?
My
You
other
know?
concern is I understand we're treating the area around it, but that structure is still gonna be extremely slippery, and there's nothing about this that prevents someone from falling onto that structure. Like if I'm on it and I slip on it and I hit it, I'm gonna be injured. And we're not,
yeah, by hitting the structure.
yeah,
so.
we're not doing anything to fix that issue.
Ted, was there a little pushback on our recommendation, or not necessarily, or just?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think people were just concerned that by removing those structures, we might, really drastically affect the appearance or the theme of that park itself. So,
I could see
I
that.
just wanted to look at what else there is besides just removing them. I didn't want to be too hasty in just taking those out and removing, because if we do remove them, it'll just be replaced by just a small fountain in there.
Is there an
so.
option to remove them and replace them with something that doesn't, obviously this is relatively expensive to put this in.
Mm.
Is there an option to do something besides just put in like a fountain?
Well, it'd be a ground surface, a surface-mounted spray nozzle, something different, and that's probably going to be about the same cost, honestly, to buy those. Those nozzles aren't too cheap, but to replace it with something like that was still like a themed structure itself, I would guess that's going to be more expensive. Something that kids can't fall off of is kind of, I think, what you're suggesting. So yeah.
I just get concerned that we're now going to encourage them to climb on something that wasn't built for climbing initially. and
Yeah,
that
by
they
putting
are
the pad around the bottom of it.
Still going to be potential injury risk of falling on the structure.
How bad would it look to fence, you know, like a little fencing around it, you know, just, that would probably make it look,
Yeah, I don't know,
If I could not just offer some anecdotal evidence,
Yeah.
when we were there, the day of the neighborhood park, preview, who was your helper there? I was there?
Stacy?
Yeah. So he's the one that where all the complaints would go to, all the injuries would go to. He oversees the staff there at the splash pad. And for the summer, they only had 2 injuries total. And I think he said they gave out less than 5 ice bags. So for a whole summer, this came to us for one complaint.
Yeah.
Because one child got hurt. And so I just wonder if we, as a board, or overreacted initially, because we had a crying mother sitting in front of us. I'm just being honest.
No, that's
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
Can we cover the structure in the flooring?
Cover the structure. Oh, in that flooring material,
Probably not.
yeah.
Like a spray, we just.
what if we just kind of passed for
I
now?
understand. That's a
Since
good
there
idea.
weren't really many injuries, what if we just kind of put
I
it
mean,
on
the-
the back burner for now and, I mean, that's just my
I
thought.
feel like this is better than nothing, and I like knowing that it's not a constant problem.
It's-
Because that was
yeah.
my thought in the back of my head, like, how dangerous is this?
Yeah, the lady, I think, kind of gave us a little bit of misinformation that she quoted that somebody from Grady told her there was a lot of complaints.
Yeah, she
Well,
did
the
say that.
city never, or the Parks and Rec, they don't have that information. That can't be validated for what she said.
Yeah, we have a lady who runs a concession stand, and we provide her with ice for injuries on the playground and this, and she gets a limited number of those out there, related to this structure itself. I mean, I think we talked about the other day, if we had a monitor out there, but that's not really an option, to have somebody out there full-time to monitor, tell kids to stay off of it. You know, we will continue to try to, you know, we can also, you know, we have no climbing on, I think, you know, it's in black layer. I guess we could try to embolden that somehow, where it's, you know, more of a loud and stay off of this.
Covered in spikes.
Even while we were there, we had a dad encourage a boy to go play on it, so he could look at the literature that we had. He shooed the kid over there to go play.
I mean, I
So-
would assume they were climbable if I was there.
I know,
Yeah.
But I'm
And if
assuming.
you put a
But my point
foam
is, the
thing around
dad
it, I'm fine
can
with it.
read that it says no climbing.
Yeah.
He still
It's
shoot him over
welcoming,
there.
it's welcoming.
It's very welcoming, and I don't know how many sides the no climbing's on, but
The injuries, do you know if they actually came from the splash pad or if they were from that park area in general? Because you can get injured just as easily on the slides and the
Yeah.
stairs and everything else that's over there as you
We don't
go.
have anything specific that ties it to these, so.
I guess in fairness, do we have a quote of what it would take to replace those and replace them with what, I guess?
Yeah, because we've looked at the dinosaur heads that rotate, those nozzles, the spray pat, the surface mounted nozzles are about $1,000, a little, probably 1,200. So to do 2 of those would probably be close to, 2,500.
I don't know. I'm probably very old school when it comes to a lot of stuff that thinks we overprotect kids nowadays. However, with the nozzles, I guess as unattractive as it is, the rock looks great, everything looks great and definitely ties into the theme, but I also can see know that splash pad gets a ton of use.
Mhm.
And installing 2 more nozzles is probably not gonna do anything but then free up some other area, cause kids are gonna gravitate towards them. So I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing putting in more nozzles, because I think it's just another
Mhm.
area for kids to play at. Aesthetically, it looks better having the rock and things like that, but I don't know if it's necessarily a bad idea to put in more nozzles, because there's tons of kids out there using it anyhow, and they will get used. But I don't know if there's a right answer and a wrong answer to this. I think you can argue both sides.
And we take our grandkids to the Columbus Zoo a lot, and there's all sorts of these climbing structures everywhere at the Columbus Zoo, and every little kid's climbing all over them. I'm sure that there's some that fall and get hurt and have issues. What is that surface, is that concrete under that thing right now?
Yeah, it's concrete all the way around there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's some options where some of these spray pads have used that foam surface across the whole thing, but there's a lot of spray pads that use concrete, just like ours. So would it help if I present a cost to replace those with nozzles, a cost to, well, we know what to do, to leave it as it is, and then a final cost to put the foam around the bottom of it?
I just think we need to decide if we're gonna keep them, if they're gonna be intentionally climbed on or accidentally climbed on. I mean, we're either gonna take them away and add nozzles, or leave them how they are, or put something around them. I mean, yes, cost, I guess, would help, but to me, I think it's just, as a city, like, what do we want? I feel like if you take a kid to a splash pad, everything there is a playground.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Putting no climbing on it does nothing
It's
for a
not.
5-year-old. They're gonna climb all
I'm
over
going to
it.
assume that that's climbable. And so we either say it's climbable and protect it, or
Oh, I see what you're saying.
get rid of it, like, is it, I don't, this is the only splash pad I've ever been at, and my daughter loves it. Is it normal to have features at a splash pad that aren't?
Yeah, there are
Climbable.
other splash pads that do have features like this. Yeah, I mean that you can get them, but and the company that designed this, they have other ones on their website that show this. So it's not a unique splash pad in that regard.
I do like the aesthetic, it just, I don't have an answer.
Is there any way, I don't know if there's any, you know tons of people in your field in other cities. Is there any way to chat with anybody that may have a couple of these and see what issues they've had and if they've done anything to fix it? If they've done
Okay.
anything to change it? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, and I have spoken with Raindrop, the company that designed this, and they've designed a lot of these, and they still make products like this that they put in splash pads because it's still something that's been wanted, and they still require no climbing on them. It's not something they've stopped doing since they've done this one at all.
Right. I was just curious if Westerville has those and Westerville got a ton of complaints from people because their kids were getting hurt. Did they do anything to fix it, or they were just, it's a park, people are gonna get hurt?
Yeah, let me ask around, I can find out some more on that.
I don't know if that might make us feel a little bit better making a recommendation, knowing that other cities have done this to either fix it or just chalked it up to, you know, Mingo's a fantastic park and everybody loves it, but kids still fall off swings and slides and you can't
Mhm.
protect them from everything.
Is there any, this is just, I'm thinking out of the box, liability to putting that foam around that and basically allowing it to be climbed on when this company has built it to not be climbed on?
I would have to check on that. I would say no because there's no admission. There is no. This is a park, but for this company to tell us that there's no climbing on these, they might not be able to support the load.
Yeah.
So I would say that they would probably continue to say that.
So would that put us in
Yeah, I
a
don't think
compromising position if we
I don't
put
think
that
we
around
would-
it?
Yeah, I can check with the company, but I don't think they would support us if we said you can go ahead and climb on these.
And I'm assuming that by putting the foam around it, we're basically saying climb on this?
Now we're encouraging it
Yeah.
a little bit.
And if
Yeah,
you
I guess-
fall, you land on it softly.
I mean, I agree with you too, Cassie. It's like you're putting that foam around and you're saying, yeah, go ahead and climb. We've got you covered.
We got you covered. Yeah.
But,
And then I'm just thinking liability wise, if somebody wipes out, they're gonna say like,
yeah, I think we'd have to still keep the no climbing on. I think it's just, it would be an extra precaution
Okay.
if someone does fall, that, hopefully would prevent injuries.
And are we saying the only reason to keep them, or not the only reason, but the aesthetics is one of the main reasons of keeping them? Is that ultimately what we're?
I think that's part of it, and it is something we've paid for that, and it does have fountains in it already. So I mean, it's not just it's part of the spray.
I've never. You mean so water comes out of those?
Yeah, water comes out of them.
Oh, okay.
There's
Oh, I
spots in
didn't know
there.
that.
Oh, so that's what makes them slippery. Okay.
Is there one that's less dangerous than the other? Can we leave one and replace one? Trying to find a compromise here.
Yeah,
Cause like, I think that the brown one is more aesthetically important than the gray one, but that's just me. Cause it's in the middle of something and definitely part of like that whole aesthetic, but the gray one's kinda separate.
But it does have dinosaurs on it. I like them both. I don't know. But I do see your point.
Well, it sounds like maybe if we got some options on cost, as
Yeah.
well as, you know, again, I don't know if there's any other cities that are fighting the same battles that we are, as far as, you know, some residents aren't a big fan because kids can get hurt, but if other communities have just chalked it up to it's a park, we can't protect everybody from themselves.
yeah, and I think probably my best resource will be to kind of get some statistics from the company that made them, and when they reach out to where these are and other parks, and just find out from them. I can move forward with something like that, and
Okay.
bring that back before the summer season starts again. I'm trying to get to it before we get there. Just another side note on this, these dinosaur heads that, I've probably talked to you about, there's one right there. We've had a lot of trouble with those. They turn on and off. I mean, they get abused so hard out there. So, we have, speaking with the company, and we've got to compromise on those. They're gonna take the on-off whole thing on the back, cause that thing just gets jerked out of there like crazy. So that's always breaking like at least twice a summer. We're gonna take that off, still allow them to move either way, and also reinforce the footer on there, cause the footer seems to break out on them too, because there's a lot of pressure on those. So I think we've got a solution for those that there won't really be a big change out there, but they'll still be there.
All right, we'll wait to hear back.
All right, there's a lot of talk on dinosaurs out there.
Sorry.
No, it was good. That was good. That was good to hear. So that's all I had.
All right, we can move on. Any other staff comments?
Just curious, any
Christmas trees up, so
remember?
first Friday it'll be lit. I think they start decorating the weekend after Thanksgiving. So it was a really nice tree. You guys did a great job getting that out there, and I meant to put a picture of those guys in there.
I saw the video on Facebook.
Okay, good.
They did that. They said it took 30 minutes to put up, showed the crane and showed them all putting it all up.
Yep, the Main Street, Home for the Holidays weekend starts Friday, the 6th.
Six?
Tree lighting is at 6:30. If you've ever been to it, you know, it's really busy. Saturday, there's events during the day. You can go on their website and find it. They have an event for kids. It's like a scavenger hunt, Dash for Dasher. Kind of get you in and out of the stores. They're looking for things. Then the Strand has Santa Claus pictures. I think that starts at noon. I think it's like 12 to 2 or 12 to 3 for the Santa pictures. Don't quote me on that time. And then obviously the parade Sunday at 3. So that's always a busy weekend. But the tree will not be decorated till after Thanksgiving.
Yep, there's a picture of our crew. I want to give these guys a little publicity here, so they do all the work. So yeah, they picked out a really good tree, and it was nice.
And a nice video on our website or on Facebook of the guys doing the tree.
Yeah, we had a little different this year with the haze and everything there and the flagpoles. So we were, it worked out fine though. So, and Stacy did guarantee that the tree would light up without any hitches this year. So last year we had a little trouble with that. So it's going to be a much better. Or I think they're updating the show that night.
Mm-hmm.
So
Every year it gets better and better.
Does that fountain behind Hayes get drained? Like, do you
No.
winterize it? Or is
no,
it
we don't
all-
need to. It they can freeze temperatures might get in 10 below, and it'll just freeze. And when it thaws out, it's good to go again.
Huh.
I know
I was expecting to see it stopped at some point.
Yeah,
but I
we're gonna
just see
try
it
to.
just keeps going.
It
so.
all depends on the temperatures. If we're gonna get to a big snap where it's probably 20, 30 below, we'll probably shut it off. But
Wow.
I know we asked that question over and over again, but they say it's fine.
All right. Any other staff comments?
Nope, that's it.
All right, we'll move on to members' comments.
I have one. I was approached by some women that have been playing tennis at Smith Park for the last 20 years. And the pickleball people will try to kick them off their court. And they've been, I hate to put this out there, they said they've been very rude to them and asked them to leave numerous times because they were first. She said they've used one court for the last 20 years at Smith Park.
Okay.
So,
I have a pickleball contact, and I'll get that out to him, because that was one of the things we talked about, was we at least leave one tennis court there at Smith, and, you know, not, their mingos are still there, but at least leave one open there as much as possible, so I can, touch base with them.
Yeah, I've played pickleball a lot out there, and I've never seen that. I've seen people vacate the pickleball very politely when tennis players came. But that's not to say this didn't happen, but I've seen, you know, the way it's supposed to be occur on numerous occasions. And, you know, but, you know, like I said, that's not to say that someone wasn't rude and.
well, they've been playing
Serious.
for every Tuesday for the last 20 years, and they have been, I got a long email about some trying, you know, asking them to leave because they were first.
Yeah.
And they only want one court.
Right.
So I'm just bringing the word from the,
Yeah, I'm not doubting it, but
It's
that's not the way
the norm.
yeah.
Is there a procedure to that? Is it just all first come, first serve, or do community, you know, do people rent them out?
It is, but
or reserve them?
the agreement with pickleball was that there's 4 courts, so they could use 3 of them, but always leave one open. Now, if no one was playing tennis, they could definitely, you know, jump onto there, but if someone did come on and play tennis, that they should just leave them that one court. So yeah, that's kind of the arrangement we've made so far. So I can always bring it up to them, and they're very good about that, and they really respect tennis players too. So they don't want to monopolize all the courts. So that's kind of why we've set up Smith a
At least
little
not
bit
everyone.
more.
I was not there, so I'm just bringing the message.
All right. Any other member comments?
Just curious, any updates on the relationship with the Y?
Yeah, it's we are they're getting ready to reveal a rate change. We haven't got the finals of that yet, and actually we just spoke about it yesterday a little bit more. So we're hopefully going to see something like that soon. What was the other? The survey. Did you guys get the survey? I'm glad you brought that up. So we just got that yesterday, so I wanted to get that in front of you. I know it's not much time, but if you do come up with any you know, comments on that or any feedback, please pass that along. Or if you have any now, we can talk about it now too. I meant to mention that when the Y was still here, but
Just to clarify, that's a survey for Y members.
for Y members,
Okay.
correct? Yeah.
Because obviously it was overwhelmingly positive, but I would expect that from members.
Mhm.
I would not expect those same results if it were a community-wide survey. So I guess that's my question is there any thought of doing a community-wide survey? And I don't know what the best way to do that is, but I feel like it would be a better skewed survey of community perception versus going to just members, because I think for the most part, as the survey showed, members are pretty happy.
Exactly.
Yep.
But I just feel like if you asked the majority of people that aren't members, you'd get some people that are happy, but I bet the majority is the exact opposite.
Yeah, and that community needs assessment that we're moving forward with, that's gonna definitely answer that question.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's gonna have that. That'll be one of the. I'm sure it's one of the survey questions that they're gonna answer, and that will be a statistically valid survey also. So it'll give us a true and honest answer.
Because the survey didn't deal with like Mingo Park.
No.
Just
um,
why?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
Y. So none of the issues that the city's having with the,
Mhm.
it didn't deal with, so.
Yeah, and in their defense, that was what that survey was meant for, was for Y members. So yeah, that it wasn't really meant to go outside of that. So yeah. And we're this is the kind of the first time this has been around, so there is some tweaks that we want to do to that survey even going forward.
But it's a great idea to do. I mean,
Yeah,
any
absolutely.
membership-based organization should do that to see what they can improve upon and
Mhm.
make those numbers change every year.
Yep.
And I think it was definitely needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some spots in there that we're just looking through it that showed some weaknesses where they could,
Mhm.
improvement could be made, so that, yeah, addressing those is the goal.
Where is the line between the Y and the city as far as like, what parts of that does the park board have, vested interest in, as opposed to what's part of the Y corporation, so we can't do anything with it?
Yeah, that is a very good question, and, how much time do we have, Elaine? No, but, Jill, it's a very confusing scenario, so, yeah, and we're looking at, how to improve that, how to make that better, especially with this needs assessment, that's what we wanna find out, how we can. So right now, the YMCA runs the community center. Look at it as two separate buckets. The community center is one, and the recreation programming and the pool is another. So part of we have one agreement for them to run the community center, and we have another agreement for them to run recreation programming and the pool. So the city is definitely still a partner, so we do have input on that, but it's limited, because we do contract with the YMCA to run the recreation center and to run the programming. So it's kind of like if, trying to think of an example, if you have if you had a contractor come and do work, they're gonna do it your direction, but there probably are certain things that, they're not gonna, this is the way they do it. So there is some limitations there. I can't say that they will do everything. Obviously, you've seen that in the past. They don't do everything that some of the residents have wanted, but sometimes they can't also. So, but I think the biggest thing to go is that there's two separate buckets. One is the community center, and the other is the recreation programming. Recreation programming we have a little more say in because it's the city's program, and it represents the city basically.
So I don't think much of that survey had to do with the recreation program.
No,
or
it was all the community
very
center.
Y-specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
Specific to the community center, yes. But this needs assessment will really focus more on recreation and the community center also. I think there'll be some components in there for that also. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, that's because a lot of the complaints that I was seeing were things that I feel like would be directly related to the Y, not so much things that we could address here, but it sounds like that's because it wasn't supposed to be, so that makes sense.
All right, anything else? Then we just need a motion to adjourn.
All motion.
Second.
All right. Thank you guys very much.
Calling people.